myself, Prince Lishiva, as the host. Today we are doing our very first interview since we started the channel. Our guest is Peter Truscott. Peter is a rugby fan, a rugby follower. He's somebody that has also coached the game at junior level in terms of uh, uh, kids and so forth. So he's well versed with the game. So we're just gonna discuss the final, which is between the Springboks and New Zealand, and we will see how far we go in terms of dissecting the game, and maybe possibly we can also ask Peter to for his predictions, and we'll take it from there. Welcome, Peter, to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Prince. Very good, thanks. Very excited for tomorrow's game, as the rest of South Africa are. So just waiting patiently for that kickoff.
Thank you so much for agreeing. You are officially our first guest. So this show will be going on to our YouTube channel, just like other shows we've been doing. So just to kick off, I want to ask you, is this like your dream final? If you look at the fact that we have not had this kind of, like the All Blacks versus the Springboks since 1995. Um, uh, uh, so do you think that it is actually a dream final for the fans, particularly South African fans and New Zealand fans?
Yes, Prince, definitely for sure. Most of us, you're a bit younger than me, but most of us were all in our element in 1995. I was a matric, and we had just been introduced back into World Rugby. And it was wonderful to have that final. And I think ourselves and the rest of the world have been waiting for this World Cup final for 28 years. They always say the Springbok All Black is the best rivalry. Nothing can match that. So definitely something that I think the world's been waiting for, and they're also happy it worked out this way.
No, I definitely agree. I think even myself, I was too young when the 1995 World Cup happened. We were just excited. But I think this one is like a dream come true. I think even the captain, Siya Kolisi, spoke about it being a historic event. So we just wanted to take out that historic milestone and the importance of this fixture, because there is no better match than New Zealand versus South Africa. So going into the game itself, let's start with the teams. We have seen the teams. The teams are out. In terms of the selection, was there any surprise for you that you looked at and say, okay, I'm talking from the Springbok point of view. Is there anything that you looked at and said, well, I was not expecting that?
Obviously, Prince, people will compare the warm-up game, which means nothing at the end of the day, compared to this final. So Rassie went in with 7-1 in that game. And it was a bit of a gamble, and it paid off. So I think psychologically, Rassie works a lot on the mind. I think that's what he's trying to achieve here. I think he's looked at the conditions. I think he's realized that it's going to rain. So it is going to be a very forward-dominated game. But it's a bit of a gamble, I think, because it's been a tough couple of last games for the Springboks. And, to expect a lot of those guys in the backline to go 80 minutes with not much backup, it's a risk. But Rassie, that's what he does. He's a gambler. And 9 out of 10 times he's right. So I suppose we've got to give him that respect, and hopefully he's got it right. But it is a bit of a gamble. But hopefully with the weather being 80% rain, it will be a much more forward-focused game than it would normally against the All Blacks.
Very interesting perspective, Peter. And I agree with you. Even professionals, I observed former Springboks, Truscott and other guys who are really well versed in the game, and they said we were surprised about that. We didn't think he would go that 7-1 split again. So here is the scenario. Faf de Klerk, 3 minutes in, head injury, he can't continue. How do we set up our team?
So I'm hoping, and I'm sure Rassie has covered all bases. I mean, a scrum off is a position like a hooker, which is very specialized, and putting a ball into scrum, it looks easy, but it's not that easy. So for me, I would think he's got backup. with regards to the players on, obviously Villi's on the bench, so he's the only guy who can come on and play a certain position. But I would say that Colby would be the guy to step in there, and I do hope that he has planned and prepared accordingly for that scenario, because it can happen. We pray it doesn't, but if you look at it as a contact sport and two very strong teams physically, anything can happen like that. So I do hope if that does happen, the New Zealander gets the red card for head contact. But it's not ideal, but I do think it is a problem. And I'm not going to go into all the different changes and players that can play different positions, but I do think he would have had some sort of a plan and some training. As they always say, this is not his first rodeo, Rassie. Yeah. So I hope he has got some plans in place for that. But that is the risk we're gonna take, and I do think it would have an impact on the game drastically if it did happen.
Thank you very much. I think you covered it very well, because I think with the Ellis Park situation, there was no red card for, I think, when Grant was knocked cold. But that was a different situation, because they said the guy was committed and all that. But I hope that if something like that was to happen, there will be definitely a red card. But let's go to the issue now of the forwards that are on the bench. We have got almost a full set of forwards. Do you see ourselves again taking New Zealand to the deep waters like we did with England and France, and after 40 minutes we start making it a set piece game where we're looking for scrummages and so forth to suffocate them in that space? Do you think that is what we're going to hope for?
I definitely think, if you look back to all the games in the World Cup so far, obviously your Romanias and your Tongas, even though Tonga was a physical game, we have done that in the second half. We've almost lured them in, tired them out, and then taken advantage of them with the super sub. So I'm any South African team that's got 7 subs on the bench, I'm very, very confident will hold their own up front, because South Africa is known for the physicality. There's some very strong players that are in that on the bench. I mean, when Trevor Njikani and Ox come on, they get penalties left, right, and centre for us. So I would have liked to have maybe got some momentum going and some penalties and everything, put the pressure on the All Blacks early. But I'm not Rassie. Rassie's the man. Rassie's proved himself. So I do think that definitely will be an area where we will not suffer because of the super subs we have. And if he uses them wisely, and maybe a couple of tactical, guys going off and prop coming on after a few minutes, who's been off because of a slight injury within the rules, obviously, I think he can definitely get the edge up front, and that's what he's banking on. Hence also the selection of Faf and Pollard, who are more accurate kicking halfbacks than Armani and a Reinach.
That's really brilliant. And now let's look at the opposition. They've gone with a 5-3 split, and then you can see they've got Watlock on the bench, which I suspect they're thinking he's going to bring a wealth of experience to deal with our scrum in the event that we want to try and get penalties. What is your take with the selection? First of all, they've got almost 1,397, if I'm not mistaken, 1,397 tests combined. I think that is even more than what the Boks have. I think we are somewhere around 1,000 now combined, but I think they still have more tests than us now, the All Blacks, in terms of the whole 23. What do you think of their selection, and how do you think they're going to approach the game?
So they've obviously gone 5-3. Rassie tried to confuse them a little bit, but they stuck with their guns like Ireland. They went with their 5-3, and Foster's kept things simple. And I think he's going to play his game plan. He's not going to be dictated to by Rassie, which can be an advantage for us because we've obviously got a plan. However, the experience speaks for itself. There's no way any All Black team in a final is going to be a walkover or a light game. They're gonna want this. They're going to come hard, and I think maybe that experience is like a Dwayne or whatever, just to come on and just keep guys calm, settle the set piece down, and just keep New Zealand sort of on the right mindsets and the right path if they are in front at that time. But yeah, it's a huge pack from their side. I do think we'll have the edge in the front row, but you cannot dictate or count out a New Zealand a pack. They always will be up there for the party, and they'll always front up.
Something that I noticed with New Zealand is that they talk about, even their fans and their analysts and general public, they talk about beautiful rugby, but more often than not, they kick a lot more than people realize. And I observed our game between England and also the game against France. The first 30 minutes, there was a lot of kicking, and we were somehow found wanting when the teams are not trying to run through our defensive lines. So do you think they might try to kick as well and kick behind us and try and challenge Keltley Arance and even maybe Colby in the air to try and see if they are up for it? Do you think we might see a lot of kicking from the All Blacks, or they will try and play running rugby from the onset?
I think you got a good point there, Prince. They always claim to be this running team that's beautiful, and let's be honest, it's always a pleasure to see an All Black in full motion, not obviously against the Springboks, but any other team. But the fact of the matter is, if you win a rugby match, that's what people remember. So, for me as a coach and an ex-coach, taking the win, doing what you need to do to get the win is what counts at the end of the day. That's not going to take a trophy home looking good if you're not going to win. But they probably will look and see where South Africa's weaknesses were. Obviously, we struggled last week against England. Freddie Stewart was very good under the high ball, probably one of the best in the world. New Zealand will always try to run it. I don't care. I don't think any conditions will defer them from that. However, they might be a little bit more conservative because of the weather. And I think that's where we got to try and outthink them and do something different than what they're not expecting. But 100%, New Zealand are a beautiful team to watch, but beautiful doesn't necessarily get you the win. And anybody who's watching the game on Saturday, it doesn't matter how the game is won, they just want the win. It's a final, and it's going to get ugly and dirty. And the fact of the matter is, the team who grinds it out is going to win the game. And there's no comments for how pretty they looked. So just to summarize, it's a good point you raise. I think the Boks will have worked on that area. Colby and Orange, even though they're small, are very good in the air. And I think we might put that game plan on them a little bit, which we also got to be careful of, because you've got Will Jordan, you've got Barrett at the back, who are giving them ball, they're dangerous. So I really think their game plan, our game plan, is going to dictate what they do. But never ever count an All Black team that doesn't want to run the ball. They will run it, and they're used to wet conditions, whenever the opportunity arises.
There's something I've picked up about New Zealand, which was different few years back. Few years back, New Zealand used to be the team that will almost like play with you at the same level, but the last 20 minutes, they will blow you away. Of late, if New Zealand doesn't get the scoreboard ticking in the first 30 minutes, they seem to run out of gas, or they seem to struggle in the second half to impose themselves. I don't know if my observation is right or not, but in the past, we used to say the All Blacks in the last 20 minutes, they almost have like a last kick. Of late, I noticed that if you defend for 30 minutes and you frustrate them, it seems like it takes the steam out of them. I don't know if my observation might be wrong, but it's what I've picked up, that if you can contain them early on, it seemed to work maybe mentally on them. I don't know what I might be wrong, but it's what I've noticed, that they're no more finishing games like they used to finish in the past, of which is a bit of a surprise. I don't know what changed.
So New Zealand used to be very, very good in the last 10 minutes of the first half and the last 10 minutes of the second half. You could never cut. They could score 2-3 tries in that time before you blink your eye. I do think they're not the team they used to be. That can be a lot of factors. It can be down to there's no more Super Rugby. Some of their players who play overseas have gone. They've chased the money. So listen, don't get me wrong. They're playing great rugby and they're peaking at the right time. And I'm not for 1 second saying that tomorrow's team is going to have a lot of weaknesses. But they're definitely not the team they used to be. And a New Zealand team you have to put the pressure on them from the onset, because when you start putting the pressure on them, they start running out of answers. If you let them get into the game, you've got trouble. So they have changed in that respect, whereas the old New Zealand could turn on 3 tries in last 10 minutes of the game and last 10 minutes of the first half. Whereas now, as you say, if you holding them and they don't have any answers, what they're trying is not working, they seem to run out of what the plan B is. Which it's saying it's not the team of late. Let's remember a year ago, they were going to fire their coach. They brought in a whole bunch of new coaches. At the end of this World Cup, Forster's gone. Now, you look at it in 2 ways. The Oak was lucky to keep his job. He wins a World Cup, he's going to be getting fired technically. So, that's all in all of their minds as well. So it's I don't think they're the New Zealand they used to be. I'm not saying they're not going to put a performance in tomorrow. It's a final and they're peaking. But if we can just turn the pressure onto them, I think we'll be surprised. There'll be some opportunities and gaps will open up for us.
Thank you very much. I think we've done very good analysis of the game. So now I just want to come to the predictions. This is a difficult one because even myself, the whole week I've been struggling with predictions. So I'll ask you to predict 2 ways. First one, I'd love you to take out your heart and predict using your own, let me say, you basically remove yourself as South African and as a fan, and then lastly as a fan. So can you give me 2 predictions from both 2 standpoints? Because even myself, I'm struggling to predict the result of this game.
I'm with you, Prince. I know exactly what you're saying, because obviously we're passionate South Africans. So for me, if I was a betting man, it's going to come down to, at this point in time, South Africa has had 5 or 6 extremely tough physical games, a lot more than what New Zealand had. Yes, they had a tough one against Ireland, but apart from the French game, which was the beginning a long time ago, they've recovered, and the Ireland game, that's the 2 tougher games they had. We've literally had 5 tough games, and you can even include Tonga in that. Remember, we played Wales, we played New Zealand before the World Cup, friendly games, but they're still tough. So I think our boys are tired. I was surprised Rassie didn't put some new legs on. However, experience counts for a lot. I think there's 12 or 13 of the players that were in the World Cup winning team last World Cup are in the starting lineup or in the squad. Whereas I think only 7 from New Zealand. So Rassie is going on what he's thought about in the past. So to give you a prediction, on form, New Zealand should take this game. But I really think the fight that South Africa shows the never say die attitude. Last game for Nienaber as a coach, I do think they're going to be there mentally. I just think the timing of the subs is going to be critical, and we need a bit of luck. We need the ref to the bounce of the ball. The ref, we know the ref. He can, he's technical. He can go either way, and then. There's a lot of factors, but my heart says South Africa, and on form, it should be New Zealand. But I always, I always want to go for South Africa. So
how many points? How many points do you think will be separate these teams?
1 point.
Either way,
1 point.
Yeah, that will be heartbreak.
So 3 games and 1 point. Yeah.
Yes. No, thank you. Thanks a lot. Before you go, I would love to get your predictions for the England-Argentina game tonight. This was more for the rugby, which the focus was 100% on the game between New Zealand and South Africa, which is the big one tomorrow. We will all be braying and waiting for it. But the third fourth playoff between England and Argentina, who do you think is going to win that one?
So I see England has made 9 changes roughly to the team. So I think they're wanting to play a much more open game. The third and fourth is like a barbarians game. It's the one no one wants to play. I do think England didn't have a bad World Cup. They were unlucky not to get to the final. So I would say England's going to take this game by 5 points. Argentina isn't the team we know they've been. We haven't seen them in their best form at the World Cup. So I think England's going to take this one by 5 points.
Okay. Lastly, another, it's not really sensitive because in South Africa we are free to talk about race, and then I think we are very lucky that we are in an environment where we are able to talk about race. How much do you think the Tom Curry situation is going to affect Bongi in terms of his mental state? Do you think that will make him to go into his shell, or you think he won't care for the world? He will just be prepared?
It's a good question, Prince. It's always a sensitive thing, when something like that happens. But I think it's kind of been proven that there was maybe some misinterpretation there. And I'm just glad that it hasn't affected him and he hasn't got to miss the World Cup for his own benefit, because he's stepped up for, Malcolm Marx is a superhero. It's hard to fill his shoes. But
world class. He is world class.
But Bongi has stepped up and he's given everything to this match, to the team. So it would have been an injustice if he didn't play. All accounts are pointing towards there was a misinterpretation. I don't think it's going to affect him. I think the poor Curry is getting stick left, right, and centre all over the world, more so. But I really do think that he's going to give it all. He knows we need to. I think he's a very focused player. And I think, once again, it's critical of the timing. I think Bongi, for 80 minutes, he's not going to be able to cope. He's had a tough couple of games on his shoulders. Dion needs to come on 45, 50 minutes latest. And so I'm positive Bongi will put it behind him. He's, this happens on the field often, and, it's just to try and unsettle South Africa. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, I was just worried about the way the World Rugby handled it. They were very slow, and apparently Rassie got the lawyers involved to say, listen, the media is busy milking this thing. You guys have got all the technical experts. You've got lip readers. You've got all these things. You can close this investigation within 48 hours. To make it matters worse, England didn't file an official complaint. So apparently Rassie instructed the lawyers to shut it down. That is why that statement came to say we can't find any evidence, because Rassie was saying, you're leaving a dark cloud over our team, but you guys have got all the resources in 48 hours to know what has happened. You have got people that can study these experts. So World Rugby, sometimes the way they do things, you get confused whether they like to be in the news because then they are trending. I don't know, but Rassie apparently is the one who told the lawyers, or the Springbok lawyers, to then put pressure to say, if you don't do something, we're going to take action. Then that's when they came up with that statement.
100%. I also heard that he had some very high-powered lawyers on standby waiting for something like this. Remember, it happened, a similar incident, but that was more a physical thing with Skalkberger in 2007. So I think at the end of the day, it is. It's just a screen. Remember, France are unhappy we knocked them out. South Africa just seems to have this noise always around it. Obviously Rassie had a go at the refs a few years ago, which obviously has improved a lot. But for me, at the end of the day, it's just a side distraction, which I'm sure Rassie has many of, and he's closed them out. Yeah.
No, I think you spoke about experience. I remember when we had the 2019 World Cup, there were a couple of things, and we managed to come through it. I remember the Mapimpi situation where there was a misunderstanding between the bomb squad. There was the issue of Eben, there was a case in Cape Town where some people were saying that he called them the K word, whatever. The team managed to manage that. So I think even that's Bongi, I agree with you completely. I think our team is resilient. We're gonna be fine. So thank you very
100%.
much. And I think, Peter, you have given an invaluable, it's very much valuable, priceless insight into tomorrow's game, and also the English and Argentina game. So I really thank you very much. And
pleasure. Thank you, Prince.
In future, and then hopefully we'll have a 5 minutes talk after the final and dissect what gone wrong or what gone right. Hopefully South Africa would have won it. I'm hoping we win it. Whether we win it by 1 point, I don't mind.
As long as you feel they're gonna win. I'm happy to see that.
No. I'm also scared. I'm also, my head is telling me we're in trouble because of exactly what you're saying. I feel like we're exhausted. I mean, the Ireland game was too much. The Scottish game was too much. The Tonga game was too much. France game was too much. England game was too much. It's almost like we have already played 5 knockout games already. So I agree with you completely. I think the guys are battered. I thought will change the team a lot, especially the backline players. I was expecting Kenan Moody and others, but like you're saying, Rassi is the best in the game, and let's trust him. And then I hope my heart is that the Springboks wins, but my head tells me that we are the underdogs given the circumstances, because even the semi-final for the All Blacks was much easier against Argentina. They didn't have any serious resistance. They didn't have to go to Gear 5. So
Yeah.
again, thank you very much.
Hopefully that'll help us as well, because we're going to take them to Gear 6. Anyway, Prince, thanks a lot,
Thank you so
and
much.
thanks
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me on. Enjoy the
Thank you so
final, and we'll chat afterwards.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Peter.
Okay. Cheers,
That is
Prince.
Peter, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.